Hello, my name is two random Europeans looking for one American to send us some cases of Mountain Dew, please.
Yeah, so I guess we'll see if we end up getting any of that juicy Mountain Dew.
Yeah, it would be, honestly, I'd be more hype for the free Mountain Dew than some pets or mounts, but yeah, I think someone will send it, right? One
Surely,
of
I
the
mean, we're a
fans.
very big podcast. We have a lot of viewers, surely. I mean, we must have like millions of viewers in the US, right?
Yeah, I guess they're just not showing in the EU. Would
Yeah,
make sense.
yeah. But actually, like, there are, I mean, they sell Mountain Dew here, right? In the EU.
Yeah, I think you can get it in Sweden, but it's not really common.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever bought it. I mean, I've had Mountain Dew, but I think probably had that in the US, or maybe I had it here as well. But I don't know. It's not like something I would ever buy.
Yeah, same.
But yeah, maybe we should give some context where we're talking about Mountain Dew. So there was well, I guess it's not really a promotion yet, but there's gonna be like a promotion in the future now with World of Warcraft and Mountain Dew, and I guess you're gonna be able to get some mount or something if you collect points from the cans of Mountain Dew or whatever. Um, there was a similar thing like a few weeks back or month back or something, where you could buy some form of gummy worms or something, and you could get a pet, I think, in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
think they're both, even though you could get Mountain Dew here, it's going to be restricted to the US for some reason. I'm guessing some legal reason.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, exactly. Um, but yeah, I mean, like it's pretty interesting. It's been a while. Like they used to do more of these type of things. I feel like in the past, but it's been a long time since they've really been doing these type of like collaborations or stuff, right? I can't remember like in recent memory that there was much of this.
yeah, I don't think I can remember any example of any promotions, but I would guess that most of them would have been US based.
Yeah, but or maybe not even like promotions, but like it felt like they were maybe even like more, what do you say, like more in tune with what's happening in the world around us, kind of. I mean, do you remember in like what is it, 2008, like when the Olympics happened, like the Summer Olympics, and
No.
you could get like the pet, I think, and the tabard and shit in the game, like during the duration of the Olympics.
Oh, yeah, that's where that comes from. No,
Yeah.
I can see the white tabard with the Olympics logo in my mind, but I hadn't thought about where it was from.
Honestly, I'm not sure, but I think I still might be wearing that to this day. I think I just put that on in 2008 or whatever, and then I still haven't taken it off. I think
Yeah,
might be
okay.
might be the case. I don't know. I'm weird like that. I guess I just something that you're just like you don't care about your tablet, right? And if you want it to look a different way, right, you just transform it, right? So,
Yeah.
um, but
So
there was one other. I guess it's the promotion here is sort of two ways, but I guess it's mostly meant to be the other way around. But there was the promotion of Preheat playing some World of Warcraft on the Kamala Harris Twitch account during a Tim Walz rally in Arizona.
yeah,
Um,
that's well, I guess we're super detached, not being from the US to begin with, but that seems like a very interesting approach.
yeah, I
Uh,
mean, I understand like them, going on like podcasts and or like news things or TV or whatever, but to send to like co-stream with World of Warcraft commentary to, I guess, you know, find younger voters or something. I mean, it just doesn't seem it doesn't seem right. Uh,
well,
I,
it doesn't seem like it would be effective, but maybe it is. I don't know.
I mean, to be fair, I'm pretty sure since this happened, like her, like I follow like the odds of like either candidate winning the election, like on the betting sites, and
Yeah.
and it's been pretty close now recently. But now in the past like week or so, which pretty much is since this happened, Trump has like shot up a lot, and he's like way ahead now, or like relative to what they were before. at least.
So you think the tiny world of World of Warcraft Twitch political co-streams contributed to this?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the nail in the coffin. You know, it was like an even race up until that point,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
they were like, yeah, let's go fucking all in on World of Warcraft, and they did it, and then it didn't work, and now they lost the election. So I think, like, you know, the election historians and stuff, when they go back and they're gonna say, like, what was the moment that made Trump win and, you know, get a
yeah.
second term at the presidency, they're gonna go back and they're gonna say it was the time when they co-streamed with Preheat doing mage commentary on Twitch. That was the moment.
Yeah, that would be the shit.
Yeah, I mean, people are gonna say that, like, in 2068, someone's gonna say, "Yeah,
Yeah.
you remember back in 24, man," and then people are gonna talk about this. It's kind of crazy story. Crazy story.
Crazy story.
Yeah. Okay, that's maybe a bit too much off topic from what this podcast usually about, but I mean, it was all World of Warcraft related, so I think we're okay. We
Yeah.
have a few minutes, we can have some fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, but I guess before more people click away, maybe let's get back to the regular program.
Yeah, so it's been a while since we last recorded, a week and a half. Since we usually, like right now, we're recording at the end of the reset. So it's Tuesday for us, and the last time was Sunday afternoon. So I've done 6 raids since our last talk, right?
Yeah, you've done a full reset plus Sunday plus Monday, so yeah, 6 raids.
Yeah. And you've been benched. We don't need to explain any further. You've been benched since the last talk.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I've been benched. I haven't even been home, but yeah.
Yeah. We don't need to explain.
Yeah.
So the last time we spoke, we were both anticipating a Kuvesa kill, which happened on that Sunday, I think, for both of us. You are sure it happened on Sunday, right?
I know we killed it on Sunday. I think you guys killed it on Sunday as well, but I think
Yeah.
you should be the one to know when you killed bosses. But
Yeah,
yes, my guild killed it on Sunday at least.
Yeah, we probably did too. And then it's been reclear with minor heroic splits into court progression for me. And there was nothing particular about the reclear. Kuvesa took a bit longer than one would hope, but it seems like that was a common issue for guilds, that you didn't kill Kuvesa in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And is that the same for your guild?
Yes, it took significantly longer, I think, than what they would have wanted. The reclear. So the reclear of Kevesa this week took more pulls than the kill took the week before, after the nerf, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess there's some contributing factors, right? One would be that I guess by definition, it's not the easiest, well, not by definition, but by boss design, it's not the easiest fight to re-kill with the current gear, since it's not really a tight. Well, you kind of choose if it's going to be tighter on the DPS or tighter on the healing by 4 or 5 healing. We've been 5 healing, which basically means if everyone lives and everyone presses 1, 2, 3, the boss will die. But the odds of all 20 people living basically the entire fight it's not 100%. So, and I think you guys 4 healed, right?
So, yes, on the kill, but and so yeah, that was a bit of a whole debacle, I guess. That was actually a big discussion, people being very angry at each other in the Discord chats this week, because yes, during the kill it was 4 healed, and then during the initial attempt to reclear it this week on Wednesday, it was also 4 healed, but they wiped for quite a while on Wednesday, never killed it. And then between Wednesday and Sunday, there was this large discussion of, shouldn't we just fucking 5 heal it, because it doesn't matter, we're still gonna have the damage, blah blah yada yada, for back and forth, people saying like it's not gonna help, whatever. But the decision was made that, yeah, we're gonna try to 5 heal it on Sunday, and that lasted, I think, just a few pulls until they realized that even if everyone is alive, it's still going to be pretty tight on the damage now. Because, well, first of all, I guess we don't have Vantus runes this week.
Yeah, that was the second one, the second factor I was going to mention.
Yeah. But also, I guess because my guild 4 healed it last week, the DPS was never an issue. So now, all of a sudden, people actually had to like squeeze out that extra DPS if we wanted to 5 heal it with no Vantus.
Yeah.
So then, in the end, what ended up happening actually was that they went back and 4 healed it in the end and killed it on the Sunday. So yeah, it was a bit back and forth there. Didn't work out super well.
I don't think we haven't pulled the boss as 4 heal. So unfortunately, I don't have experience with both the strats from a healing perspective. But like my gut feeling is that, and my experiences tell me that if you have the option to up a healer, it is the better option, you know? Like we've done in our old guild, and you sort of want to make the mistake of under healing because it's more fun to heal when there's more healing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And I think a 5th healer on Kaivessa basically allows you to be a bit worse on the fight. Like, you're not gonna have, like, you for sure don't need to 5 heal with the nerfed version of the fight. And I don't think you need the healing cooldowns and such, but it allows people to soak more blazes and be sloppier with defensives on the charges, and you have an extra external, I suppose, or potentially. So it isn't a big deal, but if I started pulling the boss now, I would still go 5 heal, I think.
Yeah, so my sort of analysis from just, you know, looking at it, since I
not playing
not playing as I want to play it. It looks like a fun fight. I want to play it, but yeah, but what it seems like to me is that you kind of the trade-off is sort of like, if you have 5 healers, the trade-off, of course, is that you can have a little bit more leeway of, you know, the healers can maybe save you sometimes and top up whatever. But if you have a bunch of people dying to things that couldn't be healed anyway, you kind of run into a different issue, which is that if someone is dead and you can't immediately rest them, you realistically aren't killing it with the 5 healing comp, right? You can't really have like a DPS dead for 2 minutes or something. You're probably not going to have enough damage. At least maybe now with the buffs and shit coming next week, or if you have ants or whatever, but otherwise probably not. Whereas if you have the other strat, then you might instead have the leeway of, well, maybe it was okay that someone died there and was dead for a while because you have more damage. Because I guess what sort of, I guess, was weird for our guild was that on the prior week with the 4 heal and with the Ventus, it wasn't really a problem, I guess. Like, oh, well, this guy is dead, it's fine, we can still kill it, we have enough damage. And there wasn't like, it wasn't close on the damage. But now when, you know, it came the other way around, the realization was that, you know, if anyone's even dead for a little bit, it's probably going to be enough that we're not going to have the damage now. And I think that probably also came from the fact that, you know, with the 4 heal strat previously, the damage optimization didn't really have to be there. Because it...
Yeah, well, you're sort of being forced to... With 4 heal, you're being forced to play defensively better, and with 5 heal, you're being forced to play offensively better.
Yeah.
So you're min-maxing different things throughout your progression.
Yeah.
And I think I would agree with your logic, or I do agree with your logic, but the sentence, if you're dying from unhealable damage, or you're not dying to a healing mechanic, then it's no point to increase the healers, I think is what causes a lot of people not to go up in healers. And I've thought the exact same things in the past. And yeah, I've just come to accept that just because you're not dying due to healing doesn't mean you wouldn't reduce deaths with more healing. You can probably frame that better than me, but
no,
it is a big difference.
Yeah, and I think that's also why this always becomes like a heated discussion. It's because when you're saying, okay, maybe we could more easily kill this with 1 more healer, it's very easy as a healer to say, so you're saying we're not healing enough, you're saying it's our fault, but that's not, you know, that's not what we're saying, you know. we're just saying like if we by some measure had more healing, fewer people might die, you know, even if it's at the fault of those DPS players for, you know, standing in something or not using a defensive or not using a health pot or whatever. More healing could have helped, right? And there are different fights where that is more or less applicable, right? So the obviously extreme.
And QSA is a fight where it's not super applicable, given that your deaths are due to the single target mechanics that are killing you, you know? But it becomes very applicable when you consider that you have to heal through the portals, the suck-ins.
Yeah.
So you have to... It becomes a bit resource heavy depending on the healing setup.
Yeah. Yeah, I think...
But... Yeah, we're talking over each other. I think it's an interesting topic though, because I'm guessing it's because of the size of the role in the raid. So tanks, I find it very difficult to assign externals to tanks, almost as if they get pseudo offended by the idea to have externals. Maybe not offended. I think healers are offended when you try and up healing or trying to imply that we could use some more healing. And I think tanks take a lot of pride in not receiving an external.
Yeah.
As in, do not help me, I'm fine. A healer wouldn't be offended if you health pot or heal yourself, you know, that's great. Do you think that's just because there's fewer of you in the raid, so you're more directly accused by a vague, should we give more externals or should we have more healing?
I don't know. I think that's ultimately that's like a communication thing, right? I think those discussions can very often go very different ways depending on how things are said, right? I mean, of course, if someone says like, yeah, I'm not getting any fucking healing, let's just add another healer, they can't heal this, you know, obviously then that's a very loaded way of saying, and you know, that's you know, that's a very accusatory way of saying towards the healers that this is your fault. So I mean, I think there should be a way to convey this message, which again, it's not really toxic to anyone. I mean, of course the healers could have healed more, and of course the DPS could have, you know, done a better job or whatever. But if we all agree that like that extra damage person maybe doesn't matter or isn't necessary, maybe it would just be easier for everyone, and maybe there doesn't have to be any implicit or explicit flame towards anyone, you know. But I think it's very hard to convey that, and especially when these type of discussions come up, I think very often you're already in a spiral of wiping the things, and there might already be sort of frustration going on, right? So
yeah,
it's very easy, and even if the person, you know, making the decision, or, you know, the officer or raid leader or whatever, saying like, should we try, you know, 5 healers here or whatever, if it like it's enough that one singular person before that who may not even have any say in what's going on with this has expressed that he's not getting enough healing or anything, that might have already, you know, started the tension and stuff like that. So I think it's a very delicate topic, and I think it's hard to do it, but obviously hopefully everyone will just try to see it from an objective view. But I know that in the past you know, in our old guild, this was always a very hard topic to bring up without trying to be like accusing towards anyone, and it's definitely really hard. But I guess that sort of goes in more aspects of life than just raid comps. But yeah, the way
but I think it's a slightly different situation as well, because if I open my mic with zero tension and say, hey, is our DPS low? Should we add another DPS or look over our damage, I guess? You, as in a 2 tank 4 heal situation, you're 1 out of 14 DPS. When I say that, I don't think you are gonna necessarily take offense to that. Like, you'll look at your damage or whatever and it's, no, it's fine, you know? But even if in the same situation you say it to the healers, if you're 1 out of 4, you're a bigger part of the topic, you know?
Yeah, you bear a much larger responsibility for the healing as a healer than you do for the DPS as a DPS. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean for sure. I mean that's probably also a thing. But I have some. I'm not gonna name any names, but I have some, you know, names in my mind, or, you know, whatever, from our old guild where I just know that this has probably happened at some point where someone said exactly that. I feel like we're a little bit low on damage. Maybe we should add someone, and someone would immediately come in and say, I'm doing this, I'm doing this log here, not coming with some immediately taking offense, even though it wasn't directed at anyone,
Yeah.
But
But you tank some. Do you agree with the tank external thing? Like, I don't think tanks take offense. That might have been a slight might have been slightly miscommunicated, but I feel like they take actual pride in not receiving. Like I can say, like I can give a tank a defensive or an external when he's low, and I can get the response afterwards. I did not need that. Like,
yeah, that you hear
I
a
don't know.
lot. Yeah, you can even hear the tank kind of yelling at the healer, "Don't give it to me if I don't ask for it,"
Yeah, I hate that so much when they never ask for it.
Yeah.
I get it when you don't have to use it off cooldown, not even close, but it is also hard because it does make sense that the tank decides if he's going to use an external, but it becomes very difficult because the external is not always used on the tank either. And I think most of the time tanks talk like that is because they're not tracking the external. So they just want to have it available whenever they hit an oh shit moment, and they're not going to ask for it until they have nothing else to use, which to me also seems very strange because I wouldn't want my last line of defense being on another person.
Yeah, I mean,
So it's a very weird thing.
Yeah, but I think honestly that's kind of a skill issue, right? I mean, optimally, like if you're a good tank, you will be tracking all externals. And if you're in a raid, you will probably know if they are assigned to be used elsewhere. If you're in M+, you can probably bet pretty much that they're not going to be assigned to someone else, and you can just probably call for them or whatever.
Yeah, but in M+, you will use externals on people that don't have defensives.
Yeah, but not because it's assigned, right? You will just
No,
you
it's not
just
assigned.
YOLO use it, right? So,
but it won't necessarily be off cooldown, even though they haven't asked for it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's obviously a lot easier for the healer theoretically you can do the same thing in the raid, but in M+, it's possible for the healer to look at everyone's defensives that are available, right? And just give someone on like an AoE damage hit or something. But it's not really feasible in the raid for someone to view every 20 people's fucking defensives and send and like just adjustably send to some people, right? That seems hard to try to keep track of.
Yeah.
But I guess in theory, there's nothing stopping you from doing this, but it seems very hard to keep track of that.
Well, some people do. They have like one or two defensives, like the main personals on the frame, and then you have like a counter for health pot and health zone.
Yeah.
It's also a raid leading thing, but I had that for a while, but then I realized, no, not my problem.
Yeah, I used to have that counter with the health pots, and I used to yell at so many people in our old guild when I saw them die without using it. That was my one thing that I would always yell at.
Right?
Sorry, what did you say?
That's a classic sort of raid leader, like you died with your health pots available.
Yeah.
Why didn't you put? And most of the time it's probably true, but some of the time you also just die because you're standing something,
Yeah. We literally had this discussion. I think last raid or on Sunday. I guess there was someone in the guild who died from something and didn't use a health pot, and then there was big discussion. Yeah, it's a classic, you could say. It's surely a classic.
I just love it because usually it's raid leader looking at the death log or something, and then they see, he still has a health pot. Like you're trying to find the reason he died, partly so you can just vent, I guess, and partly to try and help. But I don't think it's super constructive most of the time. It just feels good to like, oh, you had a health zone.
Yeah, I mean, then you can like definitively put the blame on someone. You could have prevented this had you only done this,
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. Yeah. I guess enough random spin-offs from Kuvessa. Maybe we should talk about the boss that was actually more progressed now this week.
Yeah. So you're benched for court as well, yeah?
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly. It's very unfortunate with the timing.
No, We don't have to explain why. I just want to know that you're benched.
Yeah, I
Okay.
am. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe I'll be benched on Queen as well. But now I don't have any excuse, because now I'll be home for the rest of the tier. So we'll
I
see
think
about
you're
that.
in all the previous kills are playing double warrior, I think.
I
So
think I saw one kill, or maybe it
okay.
was just a progress that only had one. But I think pretty much everyone is playing double fury, so I'm pretty sure.
So at least that's looking up.
Yeah, so the noob gets to come in on one boss at least, so that's good.
Yeah, should I just talk about Cortan since I'm not benched?
Yes. Should we maybe just start by just giving an overview of how far into it? I pulled up all the progress pulls for both our guilds, just so we see how much we pulled, how far we've gotten, etc.
Okay.
Just so we have some sort of sense of where we are in the fight before you start to sort of go on about the fight.
Yeah, I guess you can explain both the guilds then, since I don't have it on top of my head.
Yes. So what I can see here is that my guild has done 145 pulls on Silken Court. Best percent is 30.5. And what I would say is that the sort of P3 consistency started looking pretty good, I would say, after like 105-ish pulls. I think P3 was reached on, let's see, 107, and then after that, P3 seems to have been reached 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. So quite a few pulls in P3. And relatively consistent, but sort of slow progress moving through the phases. And then if we go over to your guild, you have done 155 pulls as opposed to 145. So pretty much the same. Best percent 38.4. So also similar. I mean, it's like similar place in the fight, I guess. It's a little bit different percent, but it's not. I mean, it's kind of like towards the end of the fight where you just kind of need to get to that bloodlust point to just fucking kill the boss, right?
Yeah.
And similarly, it looks like you got into P3 at 103 pulls, so also very similar. It looks like you've been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, so it looks like you've also been like 9 or sometimes in P3, something like that, I think, if I'm reading this chart correctly.
Okay.
Or at least you have
So-
that many blue pulls, whatever that means. Maybe it's not even P3, but whatever.
Relatively similar. It looks like your guilds have gotten further, but not.
Yeah, but very, very similar curves, I think.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'll say from the statistics point of view is that your guild has 627.8 eye level, and my guild has 628.3. So there's a 0.5 eye level advantage to my guild at this point, which is funny given that your guild did more splits and stuff in the start. But I guess the BOE
Okay.
stuff really paid off, or something else maybe.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, okay. So as far as I wasn't hyped about Court before, when just looking at it and playing it in heroic. But then when I started prepping for Mythic, I realized it was a really interesting fight because it is so scripted. Like the only part that's not scripted is who gets the swarm debuff, the one you dispel. Which group gets gripped in first in P2 and P3. And I guess in theory it's scripted, but in practice where all the balls are is not super scripted. Like people will be off sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like the last one has had the biggest effect throughout progression. Because there's two fundamental strat differences if you're going to copy Echo or copy Liquid. Do you know which one you've copied?
I know we did the same as Fat Shark, yes. But I don't know which one that is compared to Echo and Liquid.
That's the Liquid one.
Okay.
So the base difference is how you handle the webs, the web breaks. And the strat Liquid are playing, that you are playing, that we are playing, has it so that the red team handles all the breaking. So that means you're going to have 6 additional red orbs than blue orbs on every set. Pre-immunities and such. If you would have done the Echo strat, you would have had different colors doing the orbs, he would have had like +4 on red and +2 on blue, I think it is. But that does make a difference, because if in P1 you're gonna spawn like 18, 19 orbs when you do the webs. And that's quite a lot to soak, yeah? That's basically 2 per person, and you can't soak 3, right?
Well, you can, but it's not good.
Yeah. But I think orbs was the main. Well, orbs was the main progression point throughout the fight. Even now, our P1 wipes are orbs, and if they're always connected to orbs somehow. If a web dies, it's because they have to run to get an orb, or an orb goes off or something. But nonetheless, when planning the fight, I really liked it. When I started progressing the fight, I really liked it because I enjoy the scripted late bosses sort of dance you have to learn, and it can have a very satisfying progression curve where you're trying to get to a specific point, but you can't get through it, sort of like Tindral, and then you get through it, and then you get through it more consistent, and it's sort of pleasant, with the downside, both in Tindral and Court, that you can wipe really early, because it's still not easy to soak 19 orbs. And that becomes frustrating. And now that we've seen most of the fight, I think the enjoyment of the progression will go down quite a bit. And I don't think it's to any fault of the boss, it's just that when you have a very scripted fight, it stops becoming interesting once you've learned the script, right?
Yeah.
And I think we are at the point where, yeah, if we get to the last, the boss will die, basically. And what we are progressing right now in P3, I think mainly still has to do with the grips. Because in P3 it's very fast-paced, and the boss can jump to a spot where the boss, one group, the other boss, and one group stands on a perfect line, and it's not as intuitive as it would seem for us where to run. I don't know if you noticed this when your guild progressed, or if you even have the similar problem, but I feel like being fast enough to run to a decent spot in the room with the grips has been a pain point in P3.
You when you say being fast enough, you mean like your character moving fast enough, or do you mean more like something else in terms of like reacting, or?
I think everything from the boss jumps, and both groups and or raid leader has to know which sides both teams are going to, and you have to start moving immediately, and you have to get as far as you can, and you don't want to be stacked when you actually get gripped. So the nightmare situation for us, or the one that we've fucked up every time, is when the bosses and the teams are on a perfect line, and the team that is furthest from the boss is the one that gets gripped in first.
Right.
And you haven't been able to like beeline to the correct spot, so the orbs are a bit scattered, they might be stacked, they might be incorrect, and you might collide when you move out because you haven't been able to be on opposite sides, kinda.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of this, at least for us, is it's a bit hard when I can't show it visually, but imagine that you're the group that is the furthest away from the gripping boss. Then you have the big boss in between you and the lady.
Yeah.
And if the big boss is covering the right side of the lady where you're supposed to run, and that's the closest point to run to, that's the side you're supposed to run to, people don't tend to run through the boss, like where you don't see anything. People want to go around the boss. And around the boss is not the fastest path there. And around the boss has two sides as well. So we end up in a position where we just, the back group does it incorrectly no matter what the front group does. Because that big dude is just standing in the way, and for some reason you don't want to run through the boss on gut reaction.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
So yeah.
Yeah, I guess I don't. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a very like, yeah, a very hard fight for me to add much about, since I think, as like, if you compare this to like Kevessa, I have a pretty good picture of like Kevessa. I feel like I could jump in and I could play Kevessa, and I mean, it's like very few things, especially as like a melee base. There are very few things on Kevessa that you have to plan out ahead. You just need to know how to react to the different type of spawns, right? But Silken Court, it's just, it feels like, especially when you're watching it, it feels like it looks really easy when you watch someone else kill the boss.
Yeah.
It's like you're just walking around doing. It doesn't seem very stressful, but it's one of those bosses that it's just really about learning the dance, which is like, I don't know how long the boss is, like 8, 9, 10 minutes, whatever. You just have to learn the whole dance for the whole fight, and that's kind of it, right? Like the first time you reach the end without like, having like 10 people dead or whatever, right? You're gonna kill it, right? It's not gonna be, if you reach the end, you're gonna kill it, right? There's no
Yeah.
there's no like optimization to be done. It's just having everyone go through the entire dance once, and you will kill the boss pretty much, I think.
I'm guessing this fight will be the rough one to re-clear even in 3 months. Just because gear, if they don't nerf the boss, gear doesn't help you. And it's not too difficult of a boss, but you have to learn the dance. And
Yeah.
if you add more people or new people to the fight, then you're not standing in the same position that the guy you're replacing was throughout the fight. I think there's a big risk of you just, the orbs getting messy, or the grip ins or webs, whatever. There's so many small aspects,
Yeah, but don't you think it's gonna get like Tindril treatment? Because it's not of concern now, because I don't know how many people have killed Nexus Princess. Let me double check that, but it's like 200 or something maybe now. 159, or I guess a little bit more. This is WoW progress, so say just short of 200 probably, or 170 or whatever, have killed Nexus Princess. So there's not that many guilds that are already on Silken Court. So I think it's fair to say that the guilds that are top 170, they can kill Silken Court, right? They're probably good enough to kill it with enough tries. But
Yeah.
probably, world rank 500, 600, 700, they will never kill it. They're
I
just.
think they will kill this boss.
You think they will kill this boss in the current state?
Yeah. It's not a hard boss. You just need reps on it. Like it's a good fight, don't get me wrong, but there's not much that is difficult. You just need to play it. You just need to get through it, and it's so scripted that you would figure, like, if you looked up the strats to some extent, I think you will figure it out.
Yeah, but don't you think that? I mean, it's so hard to gauge like the skill level of these type of guilds, of course, but don't you think like I don't know, world rank 800 guild or whatever? Don't you think that it's possible that they're just not? They just can't learn a 9-minute dance. They don't have it in them. Or like why are they world rank 800? Why are they that low of a world rank, right? Like, I don't know.
I think there's many factors, but I don't think it's that difficult of a fight. Maybe there's some overlap or something, but I don't think it's comparable to like the seeds. Because even though it's hard to soak a lot of orbs, you have like 15 seconds to do it. Even the nerfed seeds was 18 in 5 or something. You would figure that out eventually, I would hope, but my gut feeling is that Court is a lot easier than Tindril.
Yeah, I think it's definitely easier, but don't you think that there's going to be a change in the future to where you can pick up 3 orbs and not die? Or
yeah, there might be. I don't think it's needed though. It's not a. I don't feel like it's not that difficult of a dance. You just need to do it.
I mean,
but I don't know.
So the way I see it is that they've already nerfed. I mean, obviously the first 4 bosses doesn't matter. They were very, very easy, always, right? So no, that was not a concern. And Brood Twister and Nexus Princess were both very nerfed, and both of those are bosses that get significantly easier with gear and the stacking buff. Whereas Silken Court, so if we sort of assume then that these guilds that are kind of uncoordinated, etc., they will eventually be able to kill Brood Twister and Nexus Princess. If they then come to the same mechanical complexity of Silken Court that we have now, and given that they're kind of a little bit lower skilled, etc., their damage won't be that much higher, you know. They still have to play out this whole thing. I'm a little bit skeptical if that's happening, but I guess we can keep track going forward, see how many guilds kill it before, if there are any nerfs to it or not. But it feels to me like the prior two bosses now, that were the only sort of progress point that existed kind of for middling guilds now. Those feel like they will become pretty trivial with gear and the buff, whereas Court might become it will become the new Brood Twister for guilds that have killed all the prior bosses, I feel like. But maybe not. Again, I'm talking out of my ass here. I haven't even played either Kaivessa or Silken Court as single pull, so could be totally off base here, of course.
Yeah, me too. I not that I haven't played it, but I'm assuming that a scripted fight is easier than a reaction-based fight, and that might be untrue for some guilds.
Yeah, maybe we should look for like a 800 guild and just do like a week, join their progress for a week, you know, just try to see, just have some sense of, because like it would be fun to know like what actually are the, you know, what are the pain points, what are the biggest differences, you know. That would be fun to see. But nice.
So Court has been a surprisingly good boss in my experience. I think it's going to be one of my, if not, it's probably not more fun than Tindral, but it's closer to Tindral than any other second to last boss I can think of. So I'm happy.
Okay, but then it's two good second to last bosses back to back then, because Tindral was obviously also kind of a banger, so that's nice. They're nailing it. But the question here then, so when does Silken Court die?
So next raid is Wednesday. We're gonna re-clear Mythic, probably wipe on Kaivessa for 2 hours. Let's say we get in an hour or two, hopefully 2 hours on Wednesday, then I'm gonna guess Thursday.
Okay.
It should die within 6 hours, or it's definitely killable within 6 hours of playing the boss.
Yeah.
So in 1.5 raids, I'm gonna say. Do you have any guess?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's similar for my guild. I think it can die on Wednesday if the re-clear is good. But again, just as you said, more likely it's gonna take some pulls to do Kaivessa, so I guess it's also gonna probably die more likely on the next raid, which is Sunday for my guild.
Yeah. Have you guys gotten to the last charge, the second charge in P3? Like the BL point?
No, I don't think so. At least not with any larger amount of people alive. So I think no is the answer to that question. I don't think they ever reached the very end. I know that they bloodlusted once, but I think that wasn't. I don't think that was at the real bloodlust point. The thing is that I didn't pay as much attention yesterday as I usually do because I was away the whole week. I wasn't here on the re-clear, so I didn't play the Wednesday raid, so I was unsaved. So I was actually pugging Mythic yesterday during our raid time to try to get some extra gear or vault or whatever. So I killed the first 3 bosses in a pug. So, and as you can imagine, killing the first 3 bosses in a pug is a bit of a progress experience as well. So I had to actually focus. So even though I had the stream on one of my other monitors of my guild playing, and I was on the Discord the whole time, but I couldn't focus as much as I usually do because I was in the other raid myself, trying for my life to kill Sikrun and Bloodbound Horror and stuff. So it was a different experience.
Yeah, I would have guessed that you'd pug 4 bosses easily. Did you try Rashanan?
No, people started leaving, but so like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's a bit hard. I don't know like how good the pugs are on the Monday evening, so it's pretty late in the week as well. I don't know. Maybe they're better earlier. But I joined a group that said 3 bosses. And then it had a bit of a hard time filling, and I think some people had really kind of sus gear, and I'm pretty sure some people had never been in Mythic before. But yeah, I think we 2-shot the first boss, I think, Ulgrax. because that one is not that hard. It's just kind of long, but not a problem. Bloodbound took a few tries, I think, like 10, 5, 6, 7, 8 tries, something, I don't know. And then Sick Run took even longer. And so then after that point, we were going to try Rashanan, but then some people left and they had to try to fill in people only for Rashanan. It's very hard to like replace people, right? Because people who only want to play that boss. So no, we didn't actually end up pulling it because so many people left. And I think that given how hard people, like how rough Sick Run was, I don't think we were killing Blood. We don't think the group was killing Rashanan actually.
Okay.
So we had I think
you go.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I think half of the wipes or more we had on Sick Run was because the press evoker healer that we had, he could not, like, for his life, he could not understand that he couldn't place the clones on the old ones.
Oh, okay.
Like, the very first pull we did, we got to like 16% or something, because the evoker died instantly on the pull, and we just had 3 healers the whole fight. And then pretty much every pull we wiped because he just one-shot the raid by, slamming all the old ones. Mm-hmm. And then finally on the kill, we basically 2-healed the boss from like 80% or something because he and another guy were dead. It was super stupid.
Okay.
So yeah, that was my Pug experience. So I'm guessing that's a lot lower level than even, world rank 800 or whatever. This is like world rank 5000 level or something,
Is it 4 bosses for the second vault?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So yeah, I would have needed 1 more to get the second vault, but yeah, I was happy to like get something at least. I mean, I got a piece of gear, even though I had to buy it from someone. After doing some horrible rolling we don't have to get into on a lot of pieces. But yeah, and then of course I have the triple M+ vault, right? So still have 4 myth track pieces to choose from tomorrow in the vault, so it should be okay.
Yeah, you're gonna have some spicy raid loot from the later bosses in your only mythic slot, right?
Yeah, surely. I mean, the latest boss I can have is Brute Twister as well, right? So
I mean, you weren't benched for Brute Twister at least.
That's true. I actually really want to get the ring from there. It was actually pretty awful. I had the ring from Brute Twister in my vault last week, but I couldn't take it because I also had a weapon, and of course you have to take the weapon, right? Like if you're Fury Warrior, you need to have a myth track weapon, so
yeah,
I had to take the weapon, and then I did that, and then obviously now I'm never going to see that ring again, I guess. But yeah, what can you do?
Did we talk about the raid buff?
We've sort of alluded to it, but I guess now might be the time to actually go into it. So, and I think we've called it as the ICC style buff a lot in previous installments of this podcast.
Yeah, so that comes in on Wednesday, tomorrow for us. And did you look up if you need to turn in 16 of the currency or 8?
16.
16. Okay, so that's a part I'm really unhappy about, because that means that in order to get the 2.25%
yes
buff, you actually need to kill bosses on that same reset and then turn it in.
Yes.
And I don't think either of us are gonna split, and you get 2 from Mythic. You need to kill, including Rashanan, and then you can get the buff.
Yeah, and then a guild like my guild, I'm sure your guild has a similar situation. I think you're a little bit fewer than us, but I think we're 25 people.
Oh, yeah.
So 5 people aren't going to get it by the time you kill Rashanan, right? So it just becomes really, really awkward, I think. Like, because at least the people you want to have in on progress, you need them to have this buff, right?
Yeah. I guess you can get it in heroic or normal, but that in practice is very annoying for raiding people.
Yeah, I mean, it's very annoying to do it because you want it on the Wednesday, right? So unless you can clear normal before, right? I guess, I don't know how fast the Wednesday pugs, maybe you can clear normal in under an hour on a Wednesday. I don't know how fast the pugs are.
I don't know, but if they were adamant like, okay, so a reason to do this would be that they feel like it's better to turn in a quest, or I don't know, getting the buff actively rather than just passively getting a buff when you enter the raid. But why couldn't they have just offset the amount then, so that it cost 8 this week and 16 the rest of the time, and then it would be solved, right? Like, what's the purpose of delaying it? Because now you're very incentivized if you care about parsing or something. You need to clear the lower difficulties first.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I don't know. I think this is very easy to filter out in logs, right? It's a flat damage buff, flat healing buff, right?
Yeah.
So it would just make more sense. Otherwise, you always just fully invalidate every week's previous logs, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen an announcement. I was in Warcraft logs Discord like yesterday checking stuff. So
But
I
I
don't
mean,
know,
for
but
a while this is true. For a while this is going to be true nonetheless. I'm not guessing you're going to get 2.25% damage increase by gear every reset, but there's not going to be a rank 1 log from now in 2 months nonetheless, right? Like, even if there weren't a buff.
yeah, for sure. It also creates like an awkward thing, right? Like if you do your reclear on, wait, how will this work out? If you play like on the Tuesday in EU or something, then you're gonna compete against the US logs for the same day that already have the buff or something. It's gonna be super. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, not that it doesn't matter that much, and then in a few months the buff will cap. So it a little bit after. So let's see, it's the 21st of January, I guess, in the US. 22nd probably in EU. The buff will cap at 18%. Yeah, I don't know. I agree. I think that they should have just it should have just been a passive buff. I don't understand why you have to do it like this. I don't understand why it's personal in that sense. Because it's also weird, right? Because if you come back later now, you have to spend like a bunch of weeks doing this, right?
Yeah.
Or because you like even if there's like catch up, right? Can you get more than 8 per week? Like, how does that work? Or do you just get more from Mythic, or I don't know. Just
Honestly,
seems
none of that. They've done this in the past, but they want some incentive to. They probably want to incentivize people to just play the raid, right? Even if you're not planning on raiding tomorrow, maybe you should just try the raid to get a buff.
yeah,
But
but can you imagine like in Pugs, right? Pug in January, and someone's like, looking for more Nerbar Palace, need to have full buff, and then you don't have a buff, and you just came back to the game and just want to play.
yeah,
And you're gonna have to grind the raid for a few weeks before you can get it, but you can't because you can't join a pug because everyone's gonna look if you have the Severus Trans buff. I don't know. I think this system is super stupid.
yeah, I'm not saying it's a good system, but that part they've done before, and I could see reasons to do it in that way. Not that I agree with them or think it should be done that way, but being offset every reset you can get a new buff, you have to kill bosses before you can get that week's buff feels very strange.
Yeah.
I don't really see the reason for it, unless there's some lore RP thing that you couldn't work without. Because even if you're gonna turn in a quest, there's a way to make it so you can turn in the last week's or the last 2 weeks results, right?
Yeah.
They could have even made it so you started getting the resources 2 weeks ago instead of 1 week ago, and you could just had 16 right now, and then tomorrow turned it in and got 8 more. Like, it wouldn't. I don't know. It doesn't
Yeah,
really make
yeah.
sense.
I think the reason why it doesn't work like that is because the way it's gated is by the number that you can obtain, not by like you could turn in and get the 18% buff today if you had all the things, right? The only thing that's gating you from doing it is having the currency. So
But
I guess
it needs to be separate quests nonetheless if you're gonna be able to catch up, right? If you can only turn in 8 each week, what happens if 16? Oh no, I get what you mean. Never mind.
because this week in the raid, I know you could turn it in, right? The guy was there with the blue question mark. You could turn it in, but the only reason you couldn't was because it's impossible to have the currency. But if you somehow had the currency, I'm pretty sure you could get the 18% today, right now. Even like the week before this actually technically went live, because it was there the entire week.
So you're basically saying that the reason could be one additional condition in the code.
Pretty much, yeah. Because otherwise they would have to stop you from... Not only would they have to stop you from getting these things, they would also have to stop you from turning them in.
Yeah, that would be super difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think... yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think this type of logic, it can't really be programmed. I don't think it's possible. Like, I think like computational theory doesn't really allow for that type of complexity in a computer system. So I don't think that it could have been done. So yeah, I don't think there was another choice that they had. I think they had to go with this for technical reasons. Yeah,
makes sense
for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I think I can't remember. We've said ICC buff because that's the last time I remember I've been playing, and you've gotten stronger in the raid. So I guess we'll see how it feels in the end. I'm guessing with how the tuning feels now, the bosses are just gonna melt when you have full gear and 18%. Like it's gonna be a joke of a like fated level of farm, which is great for me. I'd rather just kill the bosses quick and get out 3 months in, you know?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I agree. I don't want farm to be difficult. And I guess that's kind of what they want to... I mean, I guess maybe that's their point. Is like, well, farm becomes easier because you've killed the bosses, you know? So then you get to turn in the thing. But at that point, I feel like it would have... I don't know, man. It could have just been like, if 10 or more people in your raid have killed this boss before by this week, then it means you get this number. Or I don't know. It feels like just weird. Surely someone in a somewhat serious guild is going to completely miss this system or forget to turn it in, or some weird shit is going to happen for sure, right?
Is the buff only applicable to bosses you've killed on that difficulty?
No. It's applicable to all bosses. It's just a... I don't know if you saw, but there actually is already an aura buff in the raid this week. You have the Severed Strands, whatever it's called, buff. But this week it says increases your damage and healing done by 0%.
Do you think this buff is an indication of when the... What's it called? The cutting edge will close?
Well, I don't know if it's an indication, but I saw some speculation that people are saying that the next patch should come in imagine like the cadence now for how the 8-week kind of cadence that they've had, right?
Yeah.
People then were saying that means that I don't remember what they were saying, different things that were going to come, but I saw some speculation that this was going to mean some raid release or patch release in February. And obviously if this finishes up on January 1st, that conveniently leaves a few weeks to use the full buff, right? To clear the last bit of the raid. So
I mean, use it for 2 weeks kind of makes sense, right? Since you get it every 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks or even 4 weeks, whatever, doesn't really matter. But like you have some time on the end, you know, with the full thing. So yeah, I think that definitely adds to the theory that could be the release date, right? Obviously, if we knew that the buff would cap out in May, then we would probably think that, well, that's probably just not something they've thought about or whatever, right? But since it's this date before when it's speculated, then yeah, probably says something about when the next raid should come out, which is good. I'm happy that it feels like for the first time in a long time, there's no raid over Christmas. That's always super annoying.
Yeah.
So that's going to be nice.
Do you have anything else raid related?
Yeah, so I guess big change this week, or coming now this week. In addition to the 3% or to 25% buff, there's also some big nerfs to Queen Ansarak.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, neither of us have pulled Queen Ansarak, but I will pretty strongly guess that when we do the next podcast in a week, we will both have pulled Queen Ansarak. At least a little bit. And so I guess basically there's a lot of nerfs. We don't have to read through all of them, whatever. But what are our general, or what's sort of your general sentiment of these buffs? Do you think it makes sense that they're doing this?
Well, I'm guessing that a lot of the damage taken is sort of the same thing they did with Kaivessa. And I think it makes a lot of sense just because how hard they hit Preservation Evoker.
Yeah.
And some of the other nerfs are just slight improvements or makes it slightly easier to play the fight. So I don't think it's gonna be a gimped fight. Hopefully it's not gonna be like we won't feel like it's a worse version of the boss we hadn't played. So my gut reaction is that it's probably just a little bit easier, and a big part of that is just because they've nerfed healing indirectly so much with their preservation.
Yeah. Yeah, the only thing that surprises me is that I don't really understand why they do so much like number tuning when we still have so much gear. I mean, to be fair, both of our guilds can still get 10 item level average, right? That's a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of power. And they're also starting the scaling buff, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like now we have like so many different avenues. We have gear, which again, still really long gear progression. And by the way, I kind of like that. We can maybe go into that another time, but I kind of like that a bit slower progression. I think it's a pretty good pace now. And then we have the buff, and then we have also the nerfs, right? So there are 3 different things that are all accomplishing the same thing. So I'm worried that it's too much, and I don't like that they're... I just don't want them to overshoot too much, if that makes sense. Which I think they kind of did with the 2 previous bosses, but or at least from my enjoyment's side. But of course, like maybe for other guilds, maybe that was perfect timing. But at least for me, I felt like I would have loved if those bosses were harder. Even though again, I didn't play. Oh well, I played Overnax of course and killed it even before the thing, but I didn't play Kaivessa. But yeah,
I think it's very strange that they are nerfing, that they're going straight for the numbers. The only thing that makes sense, which I think is a part of the nerfs on Ansarak, is reducing one-shots. Because there were like some mechanics that did almost 9 million damage unmitigated. And your health is not going to scale that amount,
I think 10 eye levels though, that is a lot of gear, right? Or a lot of
It is a lot of
HP.
gear, but that's the only part I would look at. I would feel like numbers are a very good place to address an issue, is if something hits you in one instance way too hard. Gear does alleviate that, of course, but reducing boss health and other just damage taken over time, that will be completely mitigated by gear. But these sort of one-shots, it's more breakpoints for specific specs, right? If it matters if it does 11 or 8 million damage,
Yeah.
So that I do understand. But in general, it seems like they're in a bad position with scaling buff and difficult bosses, because I think it's safe to assume the reason they're nerfing the numbers and not the actual mechanics is that they want to keep the integrity, the timing, or whatever of the fight that they intended to plan. But slower gear progression and the stacking buff is just 2 additional effects that will surely make the numbers nerfing right now feel really weird in a month. Or right now, depending on which boss we're talking about.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a poor idea to... Maybe the slower scaling gear is a way better solution than increasing the raid as well on top of it.
Yeah, I feel like they're just doing too many things that are, along the same lines now. At least I feel like it's just too many. I can agree with the one shot type of thing, whatever, and especially with the press nerfs and stuff. Even though, to be fair, I think Fat Shark, yes, maybe some other guilds as well, killed it this week, like post the press nerf, but also before this
Yeah,
nerf, right? So it's definitely not impossible.
that was super surprising to me because I've seen. It seems to me that most of the guilds have stood still this reset, in progression in the top 20 or something.
Yeah.
But there was 3 kills that was done. It might be 3 guilds that killed the boss this reset, at least up until Monday. And I'm unsure because 2 of them are Chinese and 1 were Fat Shark Yes. And I'm not sure when the Chinese reset is.
It's on Thursdays.
Okay, then it's only 1 guild that killed it this reset because I think the Chinese kills were on Wednesday and 1 on Tuesday because I looked this up the other day.
Okay.
And if that's true, the only guild that's killed it is Fat Shark Yes with the nerfs. And that doesn't have to mean anything. That could just have been where they were in progression. But I was very surprised to see no boss nerfs with the evoker nerfs. And I'm not trying to exaggerate the effect of the evoker nerfs, but even if we're being lenient here and saying a healer that all of the guilds that had killed the boss played 2 off, lost 20% of their healing, and it was a fight they died due to healing on as well.
Yeah.
That's a big difficulty increase, and that's not offset by the 2-3 additional item levels that the raid had over the Race Award first guilds.
Yeah,
So,
it's way more, by the way. Way more.
Is it?
Liquid killed it with 625.6.
Okay.
And I looked at some of these guilds that killed it this week. They have like 631 or something.
What did Fat Shark have?
We'll have to look that up for you.
Okay. Yeah, because potentially Fat Shark, yes, is the only guild that killed it this reset with the nerfs.
Yeah.
Since the Chinese guilds.
Fat Shark,
might have
yes,
been
had 629.2. So they were about 4 eye levels above, I guess. So that wasn't the worst example. Maybe I think it was some of the Chinese guilds. I don't know how they got that high. But I'm pretty sure I saw someone had 631 when they killed it, which is crazy high.
The Chinese servers always makes me confused because I remember in MOP, I distinctly remember in MOP when there was, I think it was some of the Asian servers, they could get higher item level, like they could upgrade their gear 2 steps further or something. And generally we're not getting spewed information about the Chinese servers. And we're not watching Chinese streamers and such just because they're on different platforms and whatever, different languages. So I feel really out of touch about what happens for them.
Yeah,
So
but
when
I'm pretty sure
they have
don't have
631.
Yeah, so End Myth, which killed it world rank 9. By the way, they killed it 2 days ago, so they also killed it this week, same as Fat Shark, yes.
Okay.
They had 631.0.
But how?
I don't know.
Are you
they have
sure
2
that they have
items.
Are you sure they have the same situation we do? Like the same possibility to get gear?
I mean, I'm looking at their gear. It's the same type of gear.
Okay.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it would be crazy in like this day and age, right? That they would have a different gearing system. That would be crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't understand how they can be 2 eye levels ahead of Fat Shark, yes, within the same reset, right? That seems...
It seems strange.
Maybe they just re-cleared again. Maybe they just fucking went for it, re-cleared again. I don't know.
And Fat Shark didn't?
I don't know.
Why wouldn't a 7-day raiding guild re-clear?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, reasonably, I guess they should, because they don't need to Vantus to kill the second to last boss, and they definitely didn't need to Vantus any previous boss. Yeah, I don't know, because 2 eye level that's a big, like, huge difference, right?
Yeah.
And I think even if you did the trash farm, every guild would have done it by now. And actually, by now you can buy them on the auction house. And I think if you're a world top 10 guild, you're gonna buy it on the auction house if you need it, right?
Yeah.
You're not gonna. So yeah, I don't know how
something is sus at least. I'm not sure on which end. And yeah, 6 item levels might even out the evoker nerfs with health increases and everything, you know.
Yeah.
But in general, I think these nerfs for every nerf, I think you could arguably say, has been 1 week late or 1 week early, at least for us. Because I think for Ovenex and Kuvesa, it would have been more fun for us if they were nerfed 1 week later. Kuvesa only being nerfed to the extent that you needed to 2-tank it would have been great. But imagine being one of the guilds progressing Queen Ansorak this reset. For them, this nerf has for sure been 1 week too late.
Yeah.
They just made it even. It doesn't matter what item level you ended up killing the boss on. Every boss indirectly played a harder fight of Queen Ansorak this reset than the reset before.
Yeah.
And that's very strange.
Yeah.
Especially since they just nerfed it the reset after. Why wouldn't they just do it at the same time?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm guessing because it's very few guilds that get affected, but still must feel bad.
Now we're talking very few.
Very few guilds, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I
that
mean,
was my...
actually, it does. It's maybe it's not that weird, right? Because they need some amount of data on the boss, right? They can't just randomly nerf it. I guess they want to see other guilds because they can't just fully go on. Because obviously, like Liquid Echo and even I guess Method, they're a lot better, probably, right? If they kill it with that much lower eye level, right? That's a big difference, right? So maybe they can't just base it on that. Maybe they have to base it on a little bit. Of course, Fat Shark, yes, and End Myth, whatever these other Chinese skills, Hotpot Hero, whatever. Of course, they're also like really good players, but probably like at some point, the more guilds that kill it, the more closer it gets to a skill level of, you know, the average type of guild that's supposed to be on this boss at this point, right?
Yeah, but you don't really have to only nerf it once and never again. If you... Like, it shouldn't be super difficult math to look at the boss and see, okay, we nerf preservation by this much, and we can estimate that maybe we should touch Ansorak within the same realm of damage reduction, I guess. And you could... Because now it looks like they just hung out a few guilds progressing the fight out to dry. Like, very rarely, I think, you pull a boss, reset... I don't know, reset 3 and then reset 4, it's just harder.
Yeah, I mean, that part became, of course, a bit awkward, but don't you think that... So, what is it? It's Fat Shark, yes, and End Myth, at least. I don't know, this C-Box kill, did they also kill it this week, or did they... When they kill it? The 9th. So what day of the week is that? That's the Wednesday. Okay, so for the 2 guilds that did kill it this week, don't you think that was fucking amazing feeling for them to kill it before the nerf at least? Like, don't you think that was great for them? And it would have taken away maybe... I don't know how far along they were at the start of the week, but maybe that would have taken away a lot for them. Probably would have taken away a lot for Fat Shark, yes, because they killed it on
Wednesday, I think.
Yeah, so they killed it right at the beginning of the week, right?
Yeah.
So they would have definitely felt shit for it. But I guess that's all, like, whenever you do the nerf, right, it's always going to feel shit for someone, right?
By the way, Fat Shark, yes, had the lowest... Because I looked at Raid.io, and they had best pool 0.04%. And then I looked the next day, I think it was Tuesday, but don't quote me. Best pool 0.02%. And then they killed it on Wednesday.
That is kind of rough, actually.
I've never seen a last boss. Of course, it's happened, but I've never seen like a 0.0 something there on radio. Like, I just felt so bad for them because that's... You see that number, and everyone in the raid can think of something they could have done, basically.
That's like a someone hitting with the staff kind of thing. Now we're getting...
That's a 0% wipe, you know, like an actual 0% wipe.
But yeah, but that's like literally within like, fuck, if my pyro just crit, you know, that's like, holy shit.
Yeah, but to answer your question, yeah, I guess that feels great for them. Not having a super nerfed boss to kill, but even more guilds must have been affected in a negative way, where they just progress backwards or slowly or something.
Actually, no, I think, because I'm looking at it now. And so there are 9 guilds that killed it, right, so far.
Okay.
The 10th best, well, the one that is the closest percentage-wise that we can see at least on the Raid Rio competition thing is only at 39%. So we're not pulling the rug on anyone now. No one is like close to killing it. So in that sense, that's kind of good, right? Because even the guild that's on 40% now, it's not gonna feel like shit for them, right? 40%, but still like they still have the entirety of the last phase to progress, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they still wish like they would have been able to kill it or whatever, right?
But have they made a better pull this week than last week?
I can probably find this information.
Yeah, that's what I haven't looked it up. That's just what I've been thinking, that these nerfs to the healers look so rough that it must feel so bad to just keep pulling the boss in a more difficult state.
But couldn't you just 5-heal the boss for a bit if you really couldn't make progress? Because it wasn't impossible, right?
True.
Clearly wasn't impossible since 2 guilds killed it, but
yeah.
But you could do something like that. I don't know.
I don't know if you have the DPS if you have the DPS check then, but maybe. Yeah.
For what? You don't need any DPS in P1, right? You could do 0 DPS in P1. It doesn't matter. It's just for the intermission, I guess. If you need, I don't know if you need any. If there's like a high DPS issue.
Yeah, you have to break the shield, but I don't know what I don't know how tight it is.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's a DPS check for these skills, but
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Raid Rio's bugging out. I can't see their thing. The whole Raid Rio's down now.
But yeah, hopefully it doesn't really. Hopefully the nerfs are reasonable and we won't feel like we're playing a nerfed version of the fight.
Yeah, hopefully we'll mostly just offset the press stuff, offset some sort of skill level, but mechanically the fight should be very similar, right? But
yeah.
the main difference, I think, because they did reduce the boss's health, they did reduce the health of some of the ads and stuff on the fight, like the Acolyte and the barriers and all of those things, 15% as well. And the Shackle, 15%, and the boss 5%. So, plus, of course, the other stacking aura buff. So, and the gear. So, the main difference, I think, is we're not gonna reach the end in the same way that Liquid and Echo and stuff did, right? We're gonna kill it earlier in the cycle. And I think we're gonna lust pull, man. I think we're just gonna slap on pull. I don't think because I don't think they like the lust that they made wasn't to optimize boss damage, right? The lust that they made was to optimize getting through a crazy point in the fight, right?
I think it is boss damage, but I'm not sure. Whatever the trinket's called, I have it, so I should know. But the court int trinket,
Spy Master,
yeah, that seemed to have shifted the value of late lust a lot. Because if you can late lust in a good timing for most of the raid, you have a full stacked Spy Masters, which is just an absurd amount of int. You have execute and stuff. It might be an indirect skill check, right? Because everything needs to line up. So it should be better for better guilds. But as far as I understand, it's a DPS lust when I've done it on other bosses as well.
Okay, because it's obviously way easier to last
on
pull, because then everyone you can guarantee very easily that everyone has all their cooldowns on pull.
But Echo did some shenanigans to split the lust, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I really, really hope that we don't do that, because that is annoying. That is really, really annoying. And I guess if you're gonna end up doing that, you don't do that when you progress, right? You just do it later.
Well, really, really annoying, I think, is an exaggeration. If you lasted 6 minutes or something, you lasted 6 minutes. It's not that unheard of.
Wait, if you lasted 6 minutes, it's not 6 minutes. It's 8:30 that you lost.
Yeah, but if you last on a specific timing on the boss, I wouldn't classify that as very annoying. I'd classify that as we might not get as much value as we theoretically think we are, and we should just last on pull.
Yeah, no, but what I mean is, like, it would be really annoying if we do the split lust.
Oh, yeah, split lust would be annoying. I don't think that's a thing. I thought you meant that lusting late in the fight is super annoying.
Oh, no. That doesn't matter. That I don't care about. But what? Yeah,
I just think it's more difficult than it looks, because they've actually planned out the DPS cooldowns and everything, and made sure it lines, right?
Yeah, exactly. But also the thing is, if you're gonna do that last, you also do get incentivized, because just like Liquid, just like Echo, you're gonna have some people who aren't gonna benefit from that last at all. And it's gonna be objectively better for those people to have the last on pull, right? So
Yeah. But then you have to wait, and
yeah, that's the thing. I think in this case you only have to wait 90 seconds. So it's not that much. But there could very well be other fights where you're gonna wait for 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6, 7. You can wait all the way up to like 9 minutes, right? If you really, you know. So I don't know. I think maybe this is a good time for Blizzard to just go in and say, you know what, you're not gonna be allowed to do this for some reason. I don't know how they would fix it, but you're not allowed to do this. Maybe when you pull a boss, Sated always gets reset or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you could just clear Sated and Lust on pull.
Yeah, exactly.
And the problem would be solved.
Yeah, something like that. Because yeah, I feel like it's not really fun. It's just annoying, and it hasn't been a thing for a long time. But now when it came back, I got a little bit of chills. And I'm like, no, please don't do this. I don't want to sit and wait for this stuff. Because again, 90 seconds, not that egregious, but when we start getting into a few minutes for every pull, that's egregious. And
yeah,
of course, if we end up doing this, right, you're gonna do the progress lust, like on that, or whatever, the late lust. And then when you think you can kill it, you're gonna start doing the letting people get the last on pull thing, right? That's the way it's gonna be played. Yeah. You're not gonna do it every pull on progress. There's no point.
For sure.
Nice. So the last thing I wanted to touch on, from my end at least, was the M plus scaling thing that we spoke about last time as well. So yeah, there was big complaint from the community. We complained about it a bit as well last time, about the very weird big jumps that are in M+, most specifically the jump from 11 to 12. Because you have the regular scaling, you lose the sort of Kiss Curse buff. I would say that that's probably also itself makes it harder to lose. And then finally you have the extra 20% scaling.
Yeah.
Which is both health and damage. A lot of people were calling for that to be only health and no damage. But what they ended up doing was they changed it to 10% of both instead.
So basically knocking it down a key level in scaling.
Yeah, so if you disregard the affix, basically before you went from 11 to 14 as a key. So you jumped 3 levels. Almost, not exactly, but pretty much. And now you pretty much go from 11 to 13, so it's pretty much 2. So basically it's just a double level jump now. Yeah. And then that also means that 12s really signify the start, which I guess was true before as well, but 12 really signifies the start of the push keys, right?
Yeah.
I still don't really understand why there has to be such a harsh jump, but again, it's much smaller now, and I played a bunch of 12s this week to try it out, random no voice pugs and stuff. It didn't feel too bad. Like I didn't find the 12s to be too bad. I timed 4 or 5 12s or something, different ones during this week, including like Grim Battle, which I think is supposed to be the hardest or one of the hardest. And yeah, it didn't feel too bad, honestly. Obviously, a bit of a step up from 11, but not too bad. So I feel like they've landed in an okay spot. I think it was very good that they made the change. I wouldn't be mad to see them just tone it down to even 5% as well, though, because I feel like there's no need for it to even be there in the first place. But if they want something, then this seems reasonable enough.
Yeah, I think one of the bad things about it being a jump is that it is gonna feel very different from week to week within that range. Because if you take this week's affix, you really feel that you're playing at least as a healer.
Yeah.
Because when you get the absorbs on people, like completely randomly, I think I've heard someone explain it like quaking, and it's really true, where it either doesn't matter or it's the most annoying thing in the world.
Yeah.
And you can sort of alleviate this by having specific classes in the dungeon, but I don't know. This week, it probably doesn't feel as big of a jump as it will next week, for me at least. Or whatever it is next week. I'm assuming it's going to be less annoying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think the toughness or annoyingness or whatever you want to call it of the his curse affix is very, the level definitely varies a lot, you could say.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But good change in general, or a step in the right direction, right?
Yeah. I mean, there was just no reason why it should be like that, honestly. So yeah, I feel like it's in a pretty good place now. Overall, super happy with this whole thing about just having to do literally 8 keys on the scoreboard. That's it, and you can play them any week. It doesn't matter. That's such a good change. I'm so happy with that. So actually, even though I don't really love the dungeons, really looking forward to push some keys this season. I think it's going to be so chill. I think you can just play like a little bit here and there. You can easily crush the title range. Like I think it's just such like incredibly much lower time commitment needed to like get the M plus title or even push like really high score. Like crazy. Like you're gonna be able to like all the people that would just play M plus all day, whatever, not even be that good, but they just played so much. All of those people are gonna be so disadvantaged by this, right? And the people who, quote unquote, are actually good or whatever, but not playing as much, are gonna benefit so much more from this system. So
yeah,
I feel like it rewards the right kind of thing, right? It rewards skill over just playing a lot, which is really good.
Yeah, that would be my theory as well.
Yeah,
I guess we'll see how it pans out, but hopefully that's what happens. And even with this system, M plus pushing will be super time consuming. But this is also just a great step in the right direction for me.
Yeah, I mean, we there's more things we can complain about, but I think this is definitely gonna cut it down in like more than half, I think, or some crazy numbers. So definitely.
And for me specifically, it's just that you don't have good and bad weeks. Yeah. Obviously, I prefer not having affixes and not having annoying affixes, but that's just a side bonus. With the main bonus being, as you say, you have 8 keys and you can play whichever week you can or whichever day you can, and it becomes a lot more. You can enter the M plus scene way easier now without the push week restrictions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's gonna be so good. Like you can just jump in whenever you want. You don't even have to like. I think you can just play like, if you really wanted to, you could just play like a key, 1 key this week, 2 keys that week, whatever. You wouldn't even have to play that much, if you just played like some. If you just literally take like your weekly keys, and while you do your weekly keys for the vault, you just try to push a little bit. That's what I've been doing. I've been just trying to do like 1 level higher than I have in each key, pretty much. Like when I've been doing my weeklies, and that's it. And that honestly, just doing that might even be enough to just get up relatively high level, which is pretty great.
For sure. And hopefully the meta stays kind of flexible. It looks flexible now, except for the healer, but I think that's sort of flexible. It's a bit tight on the spells, I think. But if the meta also stays good, people are gonna have a good time.
Yeah, I think so Resto Shaman definitely very overrepresented. I mean, then I guess for tank, like Prot Warrior is quite far ahead of the other tanks, I think.
Okay.
So looking at it like this week in the top 2,000 runs, it's 41% Prot Warrior. But I mean, we still have 13% Vengeance, 15% Blood DK, 20% Guardian, 6% of the other two. So like, we still see some good representation, right? I think all in all, that's a good tank representation, right? And then for DPS, 16% Frost DK is by far the highest we see. Then we have some on 11%, which is like AUG and Ret. So yeah, I think super nice, good meta. I mean, it's never gonna be perfect. Like some classes aren't very represented, like Hunter, DPS Warrior, which mostly is probably because of Protection Warrior being so good, etc., and stuff like that. So yeah, I feel like it's a pretty good meta right now. Always things you can make better, but yeah, looking like a good season. I think it's gonna be fun, and I hope the patch now with the 0.5 patch doesn't screw up the meta again. That would be bad.
Yeah. Oh yeah, with you're thinking about the augmentation release.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's actually a lot of changes now coming in this patch, which actually comes next week. There's only 1 more week, so
is it next week?
Yeah, it's next week.
Okay.
Like not tomorrow, but in 1 week
Yeah,
after tomorrow.
okay.
So I think on next week's podcast we can probably do some research on what's actually happening in that patch, because that's going to be
Yeah.
coming out. So I think that's a good thing for us to.
Okay,
sort of
it's
look
good
into.
that that's at least for us gonna be early-ish or early queen progression and not
Not
on the
late.
kill days, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know if that's
But-
going to change anything, but maybe that will change a lot of stuff. So it's good that it's early. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Did you have anything else you wanted to bring up?
Yeah. So how do you end the podcast?